100% financially independent at the age of 28. She's doing it by managing Airbnbs that aren't even in her backyard. Zeona McIntyre here on the Fearless Flipping podcast. If you're listening on the podcast, make sure you're reviewing and rating. We need those 5 stars. Now let's get to it. If you want financial freedom, time freedom, and want to leave a legacy for generations to come, you probably have heard real estate investing is the place to do that. How do you get started? What do you have to do? When's the right time? If you are looking for those answers, you've come to the right place. My name's Kyle Stanley, and this is Fearless Flipping. My mission is to help you learn this business and conquer real estate investing. Hey, welcome into the Fearless Flipping podcast. You're here with me, Kyle Stanley, and we are talking about Airbnb today. As usual, once a week, we're talking about real estate investing. Once a week, we're talking about Airbnb. And I'm excited about this one because Zeona McIntyre is someone that is managing 25 units. 7 of them are hers and 18 are owned by other landlords. She's not doing any arbitrage, as you'll see, but she's scaling her business by managing for other people. And my biggest question for her is really, A, how did you become financially independent by the age of 28 with this vehicle? And B is, how are you managing these from afar? You hear so many people saying that you cannot manage an Airbnb that's not in your backyard. And Zeona is proving them absolutely wrong. Across the country, across the world, she's got tons of Airbnbs that sometimes she's not even seen in person. And she's going to show us exactly how she does that. Now, if you want to check out the show notes, it's www.fearlessflipping.com/Zeona, Zeona. Wanted to get that out of the way here in the beginning because she's got a lot of great resources. I also want to give you a little bit of a heads up. This was totally my fault. I noticed it like halfway into the interview. Her earrings are kind of hitting on her microphone there. And so you're going to hear a little bit of rattling. Don't let it distract you. Just focus in on what she has to share. It's pure gold. It's going to help you if you are serious about building and scaling your Airbnb business. Hey, welcome into the show. We've got Zeona McIntyre from Boulder, Colorado. Thanks for joining us, Zeona.
Thank you.
Awesome. So Zeona, you have been a host for quite some time and you built up an incredible business. So you've definitely got some stories, I'm sure. So just right off the bat, what's your most interesting Airbnb story that you have to share with our audience?
Yeah, so this didn't actually happen to me, but it happened to a friend of mine, and I just think it's such a weird one. But a hotel ended up booking a guest for one night at my friend's place. And what happened is there was a woman there who decided she was just going to move into this hotel, and she was a little bit mentally unstable and thought that that was like booking one night meant she was living there forever. So they needed to get rid of her, and they decided, let's book her one night at an Airbnb, put her in a taxi, send her away. And so she moves into my friend's place for one night thinking she's moving in forever with all her boxes,
Oh,
putting up
no.
her art on the wall, everything. So it was quite a story to get the woman out. And he had guests coming in that same day, and he was in Colombia on vacation. But yeah, his girlfriend was able to get in there, help the lady physically move all of her stuff, including boxes of dildos. It was a very weird situation. So yeah, I don't know the full extent, but we don't actually get that many weird guests. So fingers crossed, but Airbnb's not so bad.
Yeah. Oh gosh. That's definitely a first.
Yeah.
Did she have issues getting that person actually out? Like, did the person put up a fight about it?
Well, she scared off the cleaner. So the cleaner called my friend in Colombia and was just like, yo, I'm out of here. I'm afraid for my life. And so he called his girlfriend, and she was just a better smooth talker and was able to get the woman out
Oh
and
my
help
gosh.
her. She had to actually move her out. So
Wow.
yeah, every once
Um,
in a while.
well, hey, thank God she wasn't in California. We have all these rules for tenants and
Mm,
everything that are just way more on the side of the tenants. That's just crazy. But anyway, that's a whole other story.
yeah.
So, Deanna, you have quite the business, and I just kind of want to first of all, if you can give people a little bit of like a resume of your business, where you're at, and kind of the progression of where you got to this side of the business. And then after that, I want to dive a little bit deeper into your story of what brought you to Airbnb, but just kind of bring people up to speed with where you're at today with your business.
Sure. Yeah, my little tagline is 2 years from college student to financially independent. So, Airbnb has really helped me kind of move along really fast. And I'm a big proponent of the FIRE community, so that financial independence, retire early. So I'd like to talk to people about that a lot. But I went from really just renting an apartment that I started re-renting on Airbnb from just one bedroom, and I was able to turn that into renting multiple apartments, then eventually buying. Now I own 7 places that I rent all on Airbnb, and then I manage about 25 from Seattle to Spain, so I get to do a lot from afar as well and learn about a lot of different markets.
And when you say manage 25, does that include the 7?
Yes.
Okay. And let me just define really quick. Is managing for you, is that strictly managing? Are you arbitraging any?
I'm
Break
not
it down for us.
currently. I have done that. But no, now it's just somebody has a home and they don't want to deal with it, but they want to make money on Airbnb. So they're providing it to me fully furnished. And then we take over from there.
Wonderful. Okay. So
Yeah.
they provide the furnishing, you take it over, you essentially make it a passive investment for them.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
That's our goal.
That's
Because
awesome.
Airbnb is not passive. I think people need to know that. It's hospitality industry. It's really not, regular rental property. It's different.
Well, and here's the thing though, is you can make it passive by putting the right systems and people in place. And
Yeah.
would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think you can. And you can do it with really little time, which is nice. There's just so much automation out there now for
Yep.
Airbnb. So,
Yep.
yeah, you definitely can.
I tell people all the time, and I don't have the size of business that you have. I have 8 listings right now, which is about to turn into 14. We're on pace
Wow.
by the end of March. Kind
Yeah.
of the same thing as you. I run my own, and then I have a lot of people now that are coming to me wanting me to manage theirs, which is awesome. Uh,
Oh,
but
cool.
but one of the things that I tell people is that if you create these systems and you create the opportunity to just press a play and repeat, that you can put people in the place of what you're doing and essentially just focus on the money making activities, focus on your calendar rather than having to communicate with guests, things like that make it a lot more passive. But like you said, I don't think there's anything that's completely passive out there that's worth building a business around. So at
Yeah.
some point though, there has to be that way of removing yourself in order to really build a business outside of stopping at Kyle's feet or stopping at Zeona's feet. So anyway,
Yeah.
without going on a tangent in that, let's bring it back for a second. Tell me when you joined Airbnb, and tell me about that moment, really, like, of what just made you feel like you had to be a part of this.
Yeah, so I started doing Airbnb in 2012. And at the time I was just in college. I was actually studying massage therapy. And I thought, oh, this is just like a cool little side hustle. Like I didn't think anything of it really. And the concept I was really comfortable with because I'd come from this travel site called Couch Surfing, where you have people come and stay on your couch for free or in your spare room. And I'd met so many cool travelers and I had done it a lot myself traveling. And so the idea of having someone come to my home didn't seem weird at all. And so it was really into the concept. And to make money on the side, of course, that's like a win-win. So for me, it was an easy entry. But I think for me personally, I knew that it was something more than just a little side hustle. I can like even remember the moment, like standing in my kitchen when I realized like, wow, I had this dream for so long that I would maybe be able to work from afar and be location independent and work just from my computer, but I didn't know how or what that skill would be because I'm not a programmer. I'm not, making websites or anything like that. And it just clicked for me that when I was already doing it, probably a year and a half into it, going, holy cow, I did it. I'm already doing it. I have this thing and I can just keep going with it. And so that's pretty cool when you realize you're already doing your dream.
You and I actually have very similar stories, because I was doing this for 4 years before I was like, hey, maybe I should try like posting my house, just the entire thing on there instead of like just a room, and made
Yeah.
$450 on a weekend. And I was like, okay, I need to do that again and again and again. So yeah, that's very interesting. So did you
Yeah.
say you started doing this? I mean, essentially it was short-term rentals, this couch surfing version, but it was free. You started doing that while in college or just after college?
Yeah, while in college, I was just renting a 2-bedroom apartment and I had been hearing about it from a friend for like a year. And he was traveling all over and renting out his apartment in New York City. And so he told me after a year that he had made $50,000 off of this apartment that he didn't even own. And I thought, holy shit, I need to do that. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that. But as a college student, like $50,000 was like a salary, you know, it was something I'd never seen before. And so it really made me think like, wow, this is something different. This could be real. And so that got me started. But yeah, you know, you didn't have to own anything to start. You still don't need to. But I had a roommate that moved out and the furniture was already there. I already had it furnished. So I thought, you know, if it doesn't work, I'll just get another roommate. And if it does
Yeah.
work, you know, here we are today. So it's been
Isn't,
great.
that's the great thing too. You get a lot of people who are like, is this thing really going to work? And worst case scenario, if you own the place, then you just do it as a regular rental. And other worst case scenario, if again, you're arbitraging, then okay, what's your loss? $5,000-$6,000. And now you can just resell the furniture and get out of there. So I think a lot of people get so stuck on like just never taking action because they are like, well, what if it doesn't work? And I'm always thinking to myself, well, what if it does work? But then again, what's the worst case scenario? There's not a huge loss here if for some reason something does happen. But going back to what you said there with starting this in college, you know, take me back to 2012. What were your dreams and aspirations? Where did you think life was going to go? And, you know, now looking at it where it's at today, I'm sure you probably never saw this happening.
Yeah, at the time I was like studying to be a massage therapist and I thought, oh, I'll just have my own practice and I get to do something for myself. And I had some friends that had been really successful with that, maybe making like 80,000 a year or something, maybe 100,000. But I can do way more than that with Airbnb and with real estate. And I had always had interest in real estate thinking, oh, maybe I'll become like a, you know, a real estate agent or something because I loved homes and I love design. But I never really knew how it could go this way. So it's really surprised me. I see where my interests were and how, you know, it lined up to that. But yeah, predicting life is really impossible, I think.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. So was there a moment in your business where it was just like this explosion happened, or was it more of a gradual growth to this 25 properties that you now run?
I think there were moments like spurts of explosion, but I think for a long time it was really slow. I was doing, you know, two properties probably for 3 years or more, where I was just kind of afraid of going beyond that. I was doing everything myself. I had this idea that I needed to bootstrap it and I needed to do all the cleaning and all the communication and, you know, all the bookkeeping. So I think once I started letting that go and being able to bring other people on, it allowed more space for things to open up. And the clearer I got about my vision, you know, when I started to allow other people to come to me and let me help them, let me manage their properties. There was a big explosion in that because I started to see that there was a real need for it rather than me just having to come up with all the properties
Mm.
myself, having to furnish all the properties myself with not much money to start with.
So what
So,
you're saying is outsourcing actually works, huh?
not always, but yes, I think a lot of people think, oh, that's the answer to everything, just hire somebody. But honestly, hiring requires training and managing. It can be a lot. So yes
Yep.
and no.
But it sounds like that was that moment when you started to be able to take on more properties. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way that you can always be in town and always be cleaning and always be available. And if you want to scale up to doing more places, like, yeah, you're going to need help. So I knew that I wanted to be able to travel. And so this has allowed me to do that. So even just getting cleaners is a great first step.
Yeah. And so important to have the right cleaners on. But
Yeah.
what I really want to focus on right now is, and something that we haven't talked about on this show, you have tons of properties that are not in your backyard. And I've come across hosts that are very adamant about, no, I won't go outside of my region because I don't think it's possible. And then I've had hosts that are like, no, I only have properties outside of my region. So share, first of all, just like the mindset that you have in regards to that topic of doing business outside of what's in reach for you between a 30 to hour long drive.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be the first to say that if all my properties were nearby that I could just swing by whenever I wanted, life would be easier. You know, it's just easier when you can trust that you yourself went and saw something and it's working or not working. But once you let go of that, even I have a property that's an hour and a half from here, and I just don't go there. It's
Yeah.
not like that's very close. An hour and a half is far enough away that I'm never going. So I think you have to kind of just get used to the idea, especially if you live in markets like I do that are very expensive. So, as a real estate investor, it's really hard for me as a young person to get started with $1 million property. When there's all these cool places in the Midwest that are 100,000, 150,000, that's a lot easier for me to digest and a lot less risk if I'm not sure what I'm doing So
Oh
I
yeah.
had to get over that pretty quick. If I wanted to own them, to manage them, it'd be nicer if they were here, but it also expands my pool of potential people if I can do it everywhere.
Absolutely. Hey, Fearless Flipping community, we are taking a quick break from the podcast to talk about Airbnb. For those of you that don't know, I have built much of my residual income around Airbnb, despite a lot of other investors being really excited about long-term renters. I was not. I saw an opportunity with Airbnb to get to my goals faster, to get more cash flow, and to pay off my houses quicker too. So instead of being really happy like a lot of other investors are with $200 to $300 of cash flow every single month, I've turned my renters and rentals into over $1,000 on average of cash flow every single month. So if you want to learn more about Airbnb, my systems, where I pick my Airbnbs, how I communicate with guests. Maybe you've already got Airbnb as a business on the side right now, but you want to take it to the next level. I am absolutely here to help you. You can book a free consultation with me about Airbnb. Learn more by booking at fearlessflipping.com/consultation, and you get me for 30 minutes for free. That's right, 30 minutes absolutely free. And that's once again fearlessflipping.com/consultation, and I'm looking forward to helping you conquer Airbnb investing. So one thing I just want to touch on right there that I think is gold for people is you said the word easier. I would actually argue that it's not easier when you're able to go straight to the property, because now you've taken away so much time to do money making activities rather than managing activities. And that's what I tell people all the time is, you got to have hands on deck that are going to do the things that are going to be those important tasks, those urgent
Yeah.
tasks. But you've got to be able to focus on the money making tasks, the going, finding in other properties, the, again, managing your calendar, how to get more out of every single property, and outsource the things that are going to take away the time from you being able to focus on those things. So you mentioned it. I think you just use a different terminology than I did. I would say it's not easier when they're closer to you. I would say it's easier to steal your time when they're closer.
Sure.
But I would definitely like to know, just from a standpoint of actually running a business like this, what are the moving parts? Who are the people that are in your business to help you have these systems, to have places that are thousands of miles away and you're not able to touch? So what does that look like?
Yeah, so I mean, you had said it before, cleaners are like the backbone of this business.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter how beautiful you furnish it or how nice it's remodeled. If it's not clean, people are going to hate you. So just finding people that are really dependable and take pride in their work. Once you find those gems, keep them forever. But really all it takes is about a cleaner or two to have a backup person just in case. And then one handyman. So that's usually how I try to start. Usually I can get those from, a cleaning company is really easy to find. You can just put vacation rental cleaner, whatever town you're in. And then a handyman, usually the owner has one, or if you're buying a place, the inspector might know one, or your agent might know one. And if worst case scenario, you can go onto Google. But that's worked really well for me, just a little bare bones team. And, over time you'll get your specialty HVAC guy and your plumber, but you don't need those to
Right.
start.
Oops, just knocked my mic right there. So question, with the furnishing, my model, we have a very specific look to the furnishing, and then we're always trying to maximize space by seeing where can we put in bunk beds, where can we put in sofa mattresses, is a room to be able to have a floating air mattress somewhere. So is that something that you just share as advice to the owner if you're going to manage for them, or do you actually go and try to find, a designer or someone that's going to furnish the place?
Yeah, so I offer different options. I have like a furnishing spreadsheet that I give to people that's kind of like a good guideline and a checklist. And it's got options on there like Amazon links and stuff. But for furniture, it's kind of hard to find online as well. I think it's easy when you can just go physically to a store and pick it up. But yeah, I mean, I have people that will look at a room and the measurements and give them a whole list of stuff they can buy based on that. Or you can have someone who flies out and does all the furnishing for you. So it's kind of like different tiers of what you're able to invest in your property. So I have contacts for everything, but if it's not local, I'm not flying out to do it myself. I send somebody else.
Got it. Got it. And
Yeah.
does the owner pay for that flight to go out there?
I don't know how their whole setup works. Maybe
Right.
it starts at like a fixed fee and then there's more hours if they go beyond or something. But yeah, I'd
Got it.
assume they
So
put that in there.
it's not an employee in your business. It's more of a just an outsourced
Yeah,
contractor.
it's a person that I've met along the way that I'm just
Got it.
like, whoa, I love your stuff.
Yeah,
Let's add you to the referral list. So
that's awesome.
yeah, it's great. But I mean, furnishing is a big deal. And I was looking at one of my apartments before I like redid it a couple years back, and I somehow found some pictures yesterday on my computer and I was like, whoa. But it's like over time you actually develop a
Yeah,
skill in that, an eye for it. And yeah, it takes time.
absolutely. So with inventory checks, I'm assuming your cleaners are doing that?
Yeah. And then they
Awesome.
let us know and then we order stuff. We generally order it on Target and then it just gets mailed to the house and they unpack it on the next clean.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So the big struggle that I guess I could see happening is that you have a guest that asks a question about the house. You or your team are not familiar with the dimensions of the house because either you've never been there or maybe the cleaners have moved something somewhere. Just for example, if for some reason like there's a tricky thing with a light and you're not familiar with that, hey, you got to have the switch on in order to use the remote to turn on the light. You don't know things like that because you've never been there. How do you deal with like little things like that you just don't feel like you have a pulse on because you're not there? And maybe, again, like you said, either have never been to the place or it's very rare when you're going to the places.
For the light switch thing, I am pretty versed in that because I've had quite a few homes that have a light switch for a disposal or a light switch for the power of the
Yeah.
dishwasher or the garage door opener. I mean, that the light switch thing is a known trick that I'll tell people about. So I can do a lot of troubleshooting actually from afar just because I'm used to kind of dumb guess questions. We get a lot with like how to work a lockbox or how to use a keypad. But otherwise, I mean, we can always use the owner as a resource. We generally only work with the owner at the very first setup. We do like an hour call and they answer all of our really exhaustive list of questions about how to get a listing and the house manual. And they'll let us know if there's any weird quirks. But if there's something we can't figure out, we'll always reach out if we have to.
Okay,
So
awesome.
generally, they'll know.
There you
Hopefully.
go.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I feel like this makes it just so simple and attainable for people to really have
Yeah.
a grasp of, just building a business from afar. So I don't really want to complicate it. I want to kind of keep it right there. And I do want to come back to something that you said you would like to talk about, and it was this acronym FIRE. Tell me about that.
Sure. Yeah. So I got really into personal finance about like 18 years old because both of my parents were really not good with money and we struggled a lot while I was growing up. And I just thought, gosh, there's got to be another way. Like I just watched them. And even though I didn't really know wealthy people or have another example, I thought, I just want something different, and I think I could have gone down the path and done exactly as they did because that's what I had seen. But I'm really glad that I rebelled against and looked for something else. And at about like 2011, I found this blog called Mr. Money Mustache, which I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I have not heard of
Um,
that one.
yeah, it's a really good one. And he talked about how he had retired at 30 and was kind of showing people all the ways that he did it and made it really simple. So I think I was about 26 at the time, and I thought, I don't know how, but I want to retire at 32. And I actually ended up getting financially independent at 28 with
Wow.
Airbnb. So it really kind of proves that if you put something, in your mind, you can make it happen, even if you don't know the way to that, goal.
That's awesome.
So
And FIRE
yeah.
stands for?
Oh, financial independence, retire early.
Nice. Okay. And
Yeah.
that was Mr. Money Mustache.
Yeah, totally. He's great. Yeah.
That's awesome. So what is a like, I know I'm not supposed to ask this question, but how old are you now?
Oh, I'm 33.
Okay. So you've been financially independent for 5 years. What has life been like for you? Someone that usually, like you said, people don't get financially independent until much later. What does life look like for you because of this vehicle of Airbnb?
Yeah, I mean, I think the short answer is choice. Like I don't set an alarm. I don't really do things I don't want to do. When I have an opportunity, I'm kind of like, is this going to add more stress to my life or is it going to add more ease to my life? And that's how I make choices rather than saying like, oh, more money, more money. I don't care that much. And I think that's really different in the real estate world because it's kind of always like bigger is better. And, how many doors do you have? But I think I'm a lot calmer because of that. And, maybe that means I don't reach this like fullest potential, but I feel pretty happy. And I can work, 5 hours in a week, or I can work 30 hours a week if I want to. And so there's always endless projects, but I think that it just gives me a lot of calm to be like, if I wanted to turn off this whole business tomorrow, I could. So yeah, I'm happy with it.
That's amazing. And what I just really want people to understand too is that like it doesn't take this college degree. It doesn't take, having a ton of management experience. It doesn't take owning a house, but it takes fill in the blank for me. What does it take?
Um, I guess it takes having a vision.
Hmm.
That felt really important to me because there were definitely a couple things that I was like, I don't know how, but I'm going to just try. And so I think having something that you're aiming towards and dreaming of, that's really important. And then for me, it took a lot of creativity because I kind of was like, I mean, it was such a Wild West new concept when I started doing Airbnb and there was no real handbook. So I would kind of try something and that would work or it wouldn't work. And then I would try something else. And so rather than saying like, gosh, I hit this wall, I'm going to stop doing it. It's like, how can you just keep trying to innovate and be creative? I'll just tell like a quick story, but
Yeah.
my first place that I went out and master lease, so I like rented an apartment that I had no intention of living in. It was kind of like my first step of being like, can I get bigger than just the one apartment that I'm doing Airbnb, like super early days. I borrowed $4,000 from my dad for like just bare bones furniture and first month's deposit and first month's rent. And I was in this apartment for a few months and it was renting awesome on Airbnb. And then the owners found out about it and they kicked me out. And I was able to kind of talk my way out of it. They gave me my security deposit, no harm, no foul. But I was a little bit like, ooh, maybe this is the end. Maybe I shouldn't do this. And
Wow.
my dad was like, well, did you make money? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, then go get another apartment. Like, what are you doing? And so it was really that turning point of like, okay, I just need to be more creative. I need to do this in a different way.
Yeah.
And then I did, and it kept going. So yeah, I think it's important to just try to be creative.
It's that no quit mindset, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, Ziana, I want to give people the opportunity to be able to connect with you. So where can they do that?
Yeah, my website is zeonamcintyre.com, and I blog there and have some podcasts on there, and a lot of cool tools to do Airbnb in an automated way.
Perfect. And zeonamcintyre.com. I'm going to spell that for people. Please tell me if I get this wrong.
Okay.
ZeonaMcIntyre.com.
Yep, not making it easy on anyone.
And the
Yeah.
good news for them is we are going to have those that link on the show notes. Any sort of social media that you want people connecting with you on too?
My Instagram's kind of fun, but I'm an old person, so I'm not really doing that much social media. I'm a little bit lazy.
Good for you. I always
Yeah.
say that if it wasn't for business, I would not have a social media account. But
Yeah.
sometimes it's the evil things that we have to do in order to to get up to speed with everyone else. So,
Totally.
Zeona, thank you so much for helping our audience today to conquer Airbnb investing. Any last words before we log off here?
No, I mean, I guess I would say just try it. You know, there's no harm in just creating an Airbnb profile. You can do it for the room that you're in, your whole house, your backyard. You can do anything. So just build a listing because it gets you the experience and you can decide if you like it or not.
Just give it a
Yeah,
shot. Go for it. Thanks so much,
totally.
Zeona. Once again, fearlessflipping.com/Zeona, fearlessflipping.com/Zeona. And that is pretty much exactly how you build a business if you don't even live in the same city. So, what I love about this is let's just take, for example, you're out there and you're like, hey, I've got places that I would love to be able to do for Airbnb, but my city isn't allowing Airbnb. Or, hey, I think that my city might eventually ban Airbnb. Or, hey, my city doesn't even do well with Airbnb. No one comes here. I would rather do something in a bigger city. Ziana just gave you the tools to be able to build a business that can be anywhere. So she literally just took away all excuses for you, and she's giving you the opportunity to go do it yourself and do it for other people. So again, fearlessflipping.com/Ziana to get all the resources that you need in order to build and scale an Airbnb business. That has been it for the Fearless Flipping podcast. Thanks for joining us, and go out and conquer Airbnb investing.